Welcome to Made in Walker, the podcast that connects you to the people, the stories, and the ideas shaping our community. From local innovators to everyday change makers, we're diving deep into what makes Walker a great place to live, work, and grow. Here's your host, Nicole DiDonato.
We've been hearing it for years now. It's a tough economic times, especially for restaurants, and we know that several of them have actually closed in recent weeks. But there is one here in Walker that seems to have found the secret sauce. And I'm here with Austin, Mike, and Brad from Lost Art Brewery. Thank you all so much for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Of course.
Thank you.
Yes. And so, first of all, it's not like you guys aren't used to adversity. You actually opened Lost Art Brewery during the pandemic. What was that like? What were you guys thinking as you were going through this?
Well, we didn't really have a choice, so definitely wasn't planned that way.
Yes.
It took about 2 years from start to finish in terms of just opening it in 2020, so kind of was what it was.
Yes, yeah, opening in July of 2020. What was the ribbon cutting? Take us back to that day.
That was, it was pretty wonderful just to get to that. It felt like a finish line because we were supposed to open months before that, like March, April of 2020. And the contractors were all ordered off the job site and we couldn't get our inspections done. So we kind of just had to sit around and wait for the government to allow those people to come back. So just getting to that moment was just such a sigh of relief because, the bank and everybody, you still have to pay your bills and everything. So, you want to start having money come into your business. So when we finally got to open and, see people come in and sell beer to the community, it was just like an amazing day to think back on.
Yeah, you guys are certainly no strangers to problem solving, right? As small business owners, that's probably something you do a lot, huh?
Every day and every week.
All day, every day.
Wow, yeah. And what kind of inspired you guys to start a brewery? Because did you all have backgrounds, whether it was serving food or in the restaurant industry?
None of us had brewery experience. Brad started home brewing what year?
It was about 10 years before the brewery opened. So it was back about 2010 that I started home brewing.
Yeah.
So I was living in Chicago when the two of us started homebrewing together. I would come back to Grand Rapids, and we would homebrew out of his four-season room.
Yeah.
And while we were brewing, I would bring back beers from Chicago, and we would drink stuff from the East Coast, West Coast, and brew whatever delicious beer this guy concocted. And we were kind of rapping back and forth if we weren't doing the corporate thing we both were doing at the time, what would we do? And started tossing ideas around, and everything led back to brewing beer.
Awesome.
Yeah, we had some crazy other ideas that I don't even want to get into, but it all kind of came back to that of just if you're going to do something, you have to do something that you're completely passionate about, right? That you want to wake up and do every day, and you want to think about it at night, and you want to be your family to be proud of, you to be proud of. And like Mike said, it just always led back to, we're from the West Side. We grew up over here. We wanted to have a business here, and we were very passionate about beer. And, it was still a point where people were very into craft beer. We felt like we had something to say, though, that was different than everything else that was out there. So it wasn't like we were just trying to tag on to a movement. We felt like what we were doing was unique and special in its own way. And we really wanted to harness that into the business. And it, being able to open a brewery was awesome.
Oh my gosh. And we'll get more into what you guys offer shortly, but the story behind the name as well, Lost Art.
So I wish we had a better story for it, but the original name was 1983 Brewing Company, which is the year the two of us were born, and there was a restaurant group that already had that name. So we had to make an audible, and we started asking friends and family if they had any other great ideas for names. And my father-in-law came up with Lost Art, which really fell in line with the way we kind of look at brewing beer, which is kind of a lost art of doing things. So the way this guy goes at brewing beer every week is the proper way with the technique, European style of different styles, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll let him talk more about that.
Yeah, I mean, like in any industry, it's very easy to cut corners for a multitude of reasons, whether it be at cost or ease or whatever. We always like to say that we do things the hardest way possible all the time, and that tends to lead to the best result. So we don't cut corners anywhere with everything we purchase, every process we use, everything we do in the brew house is all about quality. We never sit down and have decisions and like, how can we make this cheaper? It's always, how can we make this better? Wow. So. And
in a time where you do have to maybe crunch the numbers and cost crunch and all that, you still refuse to kind of give up on quality, right?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the business people that I look up to, I know we look up to, don't make decisions that are always based on that bottom line. If you make a decision that's just about the bottom line, it tends to not work out well. But if you make decisions that are based on, taking care of your customers and the people that come through the door, they're going to take care of you in return. It's kind of like it's a different kind of way of doing business, because some people might say it's not the smart way, but if you take care of your customers, they will take care of you.
Yeah. And we're also lucky enough to finance all of this ourselves, so we don't have a board or anything that we have to answer to that are making decisions for you and forcing you to do things for the business that don't actually pan out. So like we've seen some other businesses have.
Yes. And you were mentioning about taking care of your customers, and I know passing by every day, going to work and such, even into winter, people, when it was the pandemic, still coming out. You had a lot of patio space. It could be the middle of winter. People were in their snowsuits and they were still sitting outside. What did that mean to you guys to get that type of community support and just that show of unity and such?
Very humbling.
Yeah, extremely humbling.
It means a lot just growing up on the west side, and it really shows true colors of the community and all that coming to support. So we've told the story before, people showing up in snowmobile outfits and setting up shop, hanging out outside in the freezing cold. We gave them a place to come, and they chose our little humble patio when we had no tap room. You had no choice but to stand outside. So definitely humbling.
Yeah, and it's not something we ever take for granted. Like we sat outside then, and we'll go out there now just on the weekend, and you sit there. You don't tell anybody who you are. You don't say, "Oh, I'm the owner of this establishment." You just sit down and you watch people enjoying themselves and like being able to give the community a place to meet like that and enjoy things. Like it just fills your heart to a way that I can't even possibly explain or put into words right now for you. It's awesome to see, especially like Mike said, growing up here and having the community embrace us in this way. It's just so humbling.
Yes, Walker definitely is a special place. And we've seen you guys being able to expand as well, offering a new service. If you wanted to kind of talk about that.
Yeah, so we have the kitchen indoors now. We built out, figured it out in our tiny little building, a way to make it work, and it's great, up and running now. Our grand opening was last Tuesday, and we had specials and everything, completely packed house every single night, so it was absolutely great. We offer a line of chili dogs now with a homemade chili sauce. We hope to have different special events down the line, such as like special dinners, like ticketed events and everything too. But there's never enough time in the day.
Right.
So
you were the one that was running the food truck and the smash burgers and just kind of the back and forth. So
our employees are very thankful too, because there's not a lot of running back and forth now indoors. So we have a climate-controlled kitchen now instead of the freezing cold food truck in the wintertime. So.
God bless our employees. We did that in the summer and the winter.
Yeah, you have to, on top of like loyal customers, the loyal employees too that have been with you for so long.
Yeah.
So
they're all amazing. Everybody that, like, a lot of places like to say, "Oh, we're a family here," but we really would go to bat for anybody that works for us, and they're just such wonderful people. The energy they bring to work every day, it's an awesome place to be.
And what do you think that you've learned over the years, the last 5 years? I mean, again, opening up at an extremely difficult time, and just with the way that the economy has been going the last 5 years, it seems like it never lets up. But you guys are still going at it, and you're determined, and you're succeeding.
We really try to keep our heads down. I know a lot of businesses, you come up and you kind of look around, see what everybody else is doing, follow the leader, follow the crowd. But from the very beginning, for us, it was very much just focus on what you're doing, do it to the best of your ability, and don't let all the noise around you get in the way. Like, just do what you're doing the best you can.
Keeping it interesting too. We're small batch breweries, so we're constantly coming out with new beers, coming out with new specials for food, stuff like that. Just so it's not always the same thing that people come in for. So,
True.
Yep.
Yeah, your weekly beer releases and the ice cream beers, these look wild. They look so delicious. What are like the stories behind that? Where do you get your inspiration for some of these creations?
Honestly, a lot of them are on the fly with
Wow.
whether it's like a seasonal fruit or something like that, whatever we can get our hands on. And then
Nice.
because we're so small, we can do small batch and not have to necessarily worry about screwing something up, which gives us more freedom of getting crazier, I guess, if you want to call it that. So that's kind of how those things happen. And a lot of times we are changing things on the fly. Like that given week, we might do a pivot and come up with a completely different type of beer, which I think is an advantage for us versus another place that doesn't have that type of nimble movement.
Sure.
And you get such great direct feedback from the customers, like we've done other things in the past that didn't work as much, but when the ice cream really started to take off, like you could talk directly to the customers and they tell you what they like, what they don't like. And then, you can build products that are directly tailored to what people enjoy,
Yes.
So like Mike said, just being able to be nimble like that and kind of do small batches and move around, it allows us an ability that a lot of other places don't have.
Wow.
Same thing with food.
Yeah.
We can create a burger of the month on the fly as well.
Yes. Already have your mind kind of thinking of some for the next couple months and whatnot?
I think we're going to bring back an old favorite for April, and it was one that we did that was pretty popular. We're still trying to get our sea legs in the kitchen, so we don't want to overwhelm our employees and everything like that yet. Yeah. And we've had, our St. Patrick's Day party, which was a huge hit, then our soft opening week, and now our grand opening week, and now we're finally, getting to the point where everything's kind of settling down. Yeah. So we hope to, kind of bring back some more, different options and stuff like that coming up soon. So
yeah. And do you think, thinking back, because you said you were looking at starting a couple years before you were actually able to open, looking back this far now, could you have seen yourselves where you were or where you are right now? Or
no, we say
what were
that.
your thoughts?
We say that all the time.
Wow.
Yeah. Would you imagine yourself, scrubbing the deck of a food truck on a Friday at 5 p.m., and it's
that was
it's
last
funny.
week.
Yeah. It's funny stuff.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised every week at where I end up.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I could tell you where I'm going to be next week even. Like, it comes back to being nimble. But, as a business, you go where the customers tell you they want you to go in a way, you know. So
very true.
Not necessarily
any other way, though.
Yeah. It comes back to where we started. It's all for the customers. And, like, you could say, I want things to go this way, but that doesn't mean that people are going to latch onto that. And, you could be stubborn and say, no, I want it to go this way. I need it to go this way. But people say, come this way. This is where I want you to go. And then you take it that way. And there's so much more reward to, being what they envision you being. It's a lot easier than forcing people to go your way.
Sure. I like that. You've kind of like taken your customers alongside you and kind of incorporated them the entire time.
And I feel like they definitely understand that and embrace that too. Like, it does not feel like it is our business and they are patrons. It feels like the business belongs to the community. That Stretch of Remembrance in Walker, the West Side, like, it is their brewery. We run it, but it's at the end of the day, it really does feel like it's theirs. And I think that ownership, you could see it just coming in there and talking to people and stuff. It's not like just another business,
Right. And that sense you get. It is just a neighborhood, and obviously all your neighbors and your friends and family are there, part of that as well. Looking forward in the next 5 or so years, if you are able to, or you let yourselves look that far in advance, where do you see yourselves?
That's a tough one.
Yeah.
We have a grand plan. It really all depends on a lot of things going the right way and the market and all that stuff. But we definitely have plans, in place. Long goals of 5 years, 10 years, stuff like that.
Nice.
Possible, second locations if it makes sense. All kinds of different things like that. So we don't want to really express any of those things.
Oh, yes.
But,
Yeah.
We're definitely happy just to have the kitchen open right now.
Yeah.
Yes,
Kind of
right.
retire the permanent food truck that's been in our parking lot for 2 years. So
Yes.
Yeah, we always joke about how every day is a new big project. It would just be great to, settle in a little bit with the kitchen. And,
Yes. I know.
like
not
we've
have
been
any construction
We not
going
think
on.
about the future for a
It's
second.
been almost a whole year since we were like, we're going to build a kitchen, and then you have to get all the plans drawn up and everything approved, and then you're sitting there with a sledgehammer and knocking down brick walls, and you're like, how did I get here?
That's amazing. You guys put so much blood, sweat, and tears in your
yeah. Oh,
business.
yeah. Sweat
So
equity.
much.
Yeah, Austin
Yes.
has a lot of construction background, so he was able to, whatever we could do, he was kind of our boss in getting all that done. So
Yeah, had to crack the whip.
Yeah. A lot of talent right here on the other side of this table.
Nobody's afraid to work.
Yeah.
Very
Yes.
hard. So
That's important. And for the final question, where can folks find you and hours and such?
you can find us at 3393 Remembrance. We're almost across the street from Sobeys. If you recall the old D&W, we're basically across from there. We're open Tuesday through Sunday. So Tuesdays 4 to 9, Wednesday, Thursday 4 to 10, Friday, Saturday 12 to 10, and Sundays 12 to 3.
All right. Well, we appreciate Austin. Like Brad, we really appreciate you all being here, and we're so thankful to have you in our community. And what can folks do, just one last thing, what can folks do to help support you even more going forward?
just spreading the word,
Yeah.
telling people about our products, telling their friends,
Yes.
coming in to buy some cans to go and taking them to events
Yes.
that you're going to. If you're going up to the cottage in the weekend, hopefully pretty soon here we're going to be doing some takeout caterings, so pick up catering boxes and stuff. So think about us when you're, looking for dinner options and
the brewery is family friendly, so bring the whole family.
absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. Thank you all so much for being here today. We appreciate you tuning in.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of the Made in Walker podcast. If you have comments or questions about this podcast, or if you have suggestions for future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Please drop us an email at podcast@walker.city. Made in Walker is the official podcast of the city of Walker, Michigan. You can find Made in Walker wherever you get your podcasts.